Welcome to Scattered Brain, Episode 0. In this episode, we will introduce the podcast.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're located. What we're doing here, and just to start off so it's understood, I don't have a script, I don't have a docket, I don't even have like a general guideline on how I'm doing this because this is supposed to be organic. I think I'm actually going to call the podcast Scattered Brain. One, because I'm big on brain themed stuff of late because I have a brain tumor. You'll see on the side here this little lump thing and scars on my head. Currently, I'm actually a little flushed from some of my medication, releasing histamines, which is wonderful. So I actually have about 20 minutes I can commit to this. This is going to be kind of the first, we'll call it episode 0, maybe episode 1. I don't really know. But this is going to be a podcast called Scatterbrained. What is it and why is it? And yada, yada, yada. So number one, it's going to be fairly raw, right? So imagine, if you will, a Twitch. Why do I have my desktop going off already? I don't even know what that was. Oh, I think that's coming from my work laptop. There's Scatterbrain for you. And I don't even know if that name's even available, so we'll see, because I'm going to make a new channel for this and everything. So what this is, there's been many times over probably the last 20 years I've started either with a video log, video diaries, or podcast. And I have routinely had a problem where I start strong on things and then I lose interest in it. Part of it was due to undiagnosed and untreated ADHD, which I've started medication for that, which has significantly improved my organization and follow through on things. So what I wanted to do is, before I start really digging into my day, I'm an application developer, software engineer, automation. There's a lot of different things. So technically, I don't even know what I'd really truly call my role, but it's fairly involved, and I've always found that conversation kind of get my brain going better than just trying to go through coffee or something. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. So what I've been doing for the last week is just kind of doing like a video diagram, or not diagram, diary, where I just kind of talk to myself about the things that I'm thinking about, and just conversation goes where it will, right? And I think this instrumentation is actually quite useful for me. I think it just kind of forces your functions to start to wake up. And sometimes I have the opportunity to do that because of a meeting or call that I have early, which is why this one's only going to be about 20 minutes, because I have one in 20 minutes. But I don't really have friends. I have a fiance, but she's a teacher, so she's at work now, and I can't really talk to her, obviously. You can't even really text her because, as you know, school teachers are very involved, so it's not like she has a lot of opportunity to talk with me. And if she would, I don't think we would talk at a sufficient enough duration that would actually allow me to get what I need out of it. So I just kind of want to lay a little bit of the framework here. Like I said, not first time I've attempted it. This is going to be a fresh channel, fresh everything. I kind of want to start over from scratch for everything. I like to use this because I have one of these Cluvens cockpit chair things. It's a pretty wild looking chair. Got all kinds of fancy lights and stuff. I can move my monitor based upon this. It's cool. Just trust me, it's cool. Get a better picture of it later. So let's get Scatterbrain, because I totally just lost what I was trying to say. So what I'm trying to actually achieve with this is going to be a little bit different, right? It's going to be as if you're watching this live, but it's obviously not going to be live. Not until we've established if there's an appetite for something like this, and if there is, then great. Then perhaps I'll do some live sessions and combine it with video uploads. Maybe just I'm kind of a fan of the original intention behind YouTube. Before obviously Google bought it, and that was exactly what it says. You on a tube, low production value, relatively speaking. Hopefully not overly scripted and not overly manipulative. I like that. I always have. I like listening to that in the background, sometimes even focusing on it. I tend to think that makes some of the more interesting content that I've ever seen on these platforms. So I want to produce some of that. And also because it not so subtly allows me to be lazy, right? Because then I don't have to put a lot of editing on it. But I also don't have a lot of time, right? And if, I found every time I attempted this that I don't mind the video part. I actually enjoy it. That's why I was doing it. And I enjoy the talking part probably more than many people like. And if you see me itching, I don't know if I mentioned it, but medication makes my histamines release, one of my medications, so I'm sort of itchy. Again, brain tumor, lots of surgeries. If you notice that I'm talking out of one side of my mouth, it's because I actually have paralysis. Not major Bell's palsy, but I have some on that side. Can't produce tears. Mouth doesn't fully open. Can't really smile symmetrically. So just so you don't think I'm having a stroke. because that is possible. I'm obviously at a high risk. Did that scare you off? Are you not going to watch this? Because I totally understand. But, over the years, I have had conversations, as I usually do, just sort of going off on my own little chasing journey. And I've had people give me, fairly positive feedback. Now, when I was younger, it wasn't positive. It was always along the lines of, shut up, you talk too much. And, oh my God, he's so goofy. He won't shut up, right? So I understood that, my personality is somewhat niche, and maybe it's an acquired taste. I don't know. But as a gamer, as someone who's been chronically online as a hobby, among other reasons, it's my career, I have come across a lot of people who have enjoyed listening to me. They don't necessarily even find an interest in partaking. They have just gave me the feedback, and assuming they're being honest, that they enjoy hearing me speak, obviously. Because they don't enjoy hearing me breathe. I can mouth breathe because I can't breathe properly out of my nose. So there is that. And I keep looking over because I just want to make sure that I stay on time here and I don't go over because I do have some important matters to address in this particular meeting. So I need to make sure I prep. So I'm only looking for that 10 minutes of prep. I don't even probably even need that. It's pretty straightforward what I'm doing. It's just a software data point analysis, nothing that fancy, boring stuff. But yeah, I need to be able to obviously present an analog of it and what it all means. So I personally like to prep a little bit. I'd recommend that. It's just driving me crazy. I recommend that if you're somebody who occasionally has to do presentations or meetings, always do a dry run, do a practice rehearsal. It doesn't have to be super thorough, but I would recommend something there. And so I think that's a good segue to kind of talk about the fact that I like to mentor. I like to share ideas. I started off life disadvantaged, deep, deep poverty, go to bed hungry as a child, poverty, not having clothes to wear, the extreme forms of it, which was onset by not good parents, right? Not good people. My mother was an abusive addict, and my father, I don't really know because he killed himself when I was 8. I'm sorry if that upsets anyone. As I've learned, weirdly, it seems to upset more other people more than it does me. It's life. I have to accept it, right? That's what you do. But for some reason, tales of my childhood upsets people. Regardless, got very little college education. I'm self-educated, and again, I worked as an application developer for a Fortune 500 company. Before that, I was a system administrator, more focused more on like system engineering, server engineering work. If you're familiar with the industry, your tier 3 kind of work. And I moved very fast through this career, right? Because I started at maybe 2014, I think that's about right, late 2014, maybe early 2015, somewhere in that frame. And as you can see, just a little over 10 years later, from just being a guy you called for help to turn on your internet, I am now developing applications and services and all kinds of fancy doodads for a very high liability industry and one of the top dogs in that game. So clearly, I'm doing okay. I've also, over the last 5 years, I've learned to invest. I've learned to get into some electronic engineering for some potential inventions that may come to market. I've learned a lot of other handcrafting because for me, what appeals to me is creation, right? And that's what we're kind of doing here, right? Content creator. I'm not going to necessarily go as far as call myself that because I'm not sure if this qualifies as content, but we'll see. But regardless, I've always been sort of drawn towards the aspect of creation. Take something that doesn't exist and create it because I have a horrendous volume of ideas floating in my head. And I used to just let it kind of stay in my head, and I didn't find that to be healthy. It kept me from sleeping because I'd think about things. I'd get frustrated over a variety of different things for different reasons. And so I found it therapeutic to begin to create things. I have an art tablet sitting here, so sometimes don't mind the bruises and scratches, releasing blood draw. Promise I'm not an addict, I think. I'm addicted to the internet gaming. Less these days than before. Anyways, kind of forgot where I was going with that. Yeah, I just like to create. I just like to make things. And I'm sure there's people that can relate to that. It is sort of an unusual thing, right, to be writing code by day and then creating artistic or handcrafted objects at night. If the things that they taught us in the 90s and early 2000s are to be believed, right brain, left brain, these don't cohabitate within the same persona. They do with me. It's a fix on equal sides. I love to code. I love to create things. And I love to solve logical puzzles. Those are my dopamine fix. But my escapism is creativity. Maybe because they are so diametrically opposed, that's why I enjoy it. Not sure. But I have spent a lot of time thinking on things. I don't know how well that aligns with other people and how well other people think about a broad amount of topics as deep as they can. But when I research things, I don't just research like ChatGPT, Google search. If I'm looking into something, I want to know the supportive framework of it, right? I want to know the actual laws, the statutes, the Code of Federal Regulations, whatever, policy, whatever it may be. I want to start from the quote unquote source of truth and work my way up. And then determine things based upon that analysis combined with some other things, maybe conversations, maybe just emotions. And the output is usually a fairly complete and qualified stance, view, or approach to something. Now, does that necessarily translate to complete? Complete? No. I don't think anything can ever be complete. I think we are all lifelong students, and anyone proclaiming mastery and that they've lost the need to learn would be committing what I believe to be the ultimate Socratic paradox and believing you know everything there is to know, which if you know anything, you know nothing. That's the paradox. That's as they say. They being Socrates. Maybe he did say that. Maybe he did. Who knows? So, I like to share these things. In the past, I offered a lot of this stuff sort of free of charge. Obviously, everything that I'm going to be offering here is free of charge. If you find value in it, great. If you don't, I understand. If you decide you want to be offensive because that sort of somehow helps you compensate with something you're dealing with, okay, then that's an option too. I don't think that's necessarily a horrible thing. Sometimes people deal with crises, problems, frustrations their own way. And with the things I've been through in my life, I'm not exactly somebody anymore. When I was younger, different story, but I'm not somebody a few months is going to find these things and take these things super personal. I generally don't care, right? Grand scheme of things, I would like to leave a solid impression, right? I like people to get something of value out of this, to, if anything, justify the time that I spent outside of whatever I get out of this. But also enriching other people's lives, I think, is a great thing. It's not all charity, because obviously I like the idea, love the idea of giving back. I have actually helped people find six-figure and near six-figure jobs through my mentorship, and that was all offered free of charge, but it drew on my time, and like I said, I'm becoming less and less available for those sort of things free. So I still offer those things. I still engage in those things. I'm not trying to get rich off it because I'm fairly wealthy off of the other things that I do, which I can talk a bit more in depth and, share some of those, how to get started. Most of that, though, is going to be something that becomes a part of a structured kind of one-on-one, right? This isn't going to be a one-size-fit-all, what was that? Gosh, now I'm forgetting his name. One of the crypto guys, he had like Man University or some weird thing that, had Dunning-Kruger's written all over it. But when you look at it, it's really kind of a scam, right? Like the guy, yes, he's selling you a product, but it's a one-size-fit-all, and anyone that knows anything about anything knows that, no, it's impossible, right? There's very few things in this world that are clinically sanitized to be exactly the same from a procedural standpoint. Most things need some variance, some tweaking, some personalization. And when it comes to education, that is even more so true because none of us learn the same, none of us interpret the same thing. A classic analogy I would use is, if you will, I put a television in front of you and I ask 15 different people, what do they see? I may get some answers that are relatively similar, but I may get some that are completely different, especially if I'm sampling different aspects of the world, right? You may get somebody that says, just the shape. That's a box. It's a box with a glass thing on it, right? I get somebody else that says, oh, that's a piece of technology that was invented in so and so. It's used to broadcast these things, blah blah blah. You're gonna get a lot of different things. Someone may just generalize it and say it's a source of entertainment. Some may say it's a source of frustration because they watch the news all day, right? Our experiences in our lives lead to very different ways of interpreting the same thing. Therefore, why would you enroll or purchase a course at insanely high prices? My stuff is nothing like that. It's just a little something to obligate me. It sounds horrible, but it's true, right? So it keeps me honest, keeps make sure that I follow through on it because I have accepted money for it, right? It's not something that is going to cause me to quit my day job anytime soon, trust me. When I'm talking about money, I'm talking about, invest beginner introductions and money management, that kind of thing, for maybe like 100, 150 bucks. And something like that, you get way more, right? Like, you're going to get a situation where I'm actually going to be live, right? I'm going to talk to you. We're going to discuss your goals, your financial profile, anything that you're comfortable disclosing. And then I'm going to give you my honest take on your situation and what your next steps should be, where you go, and how realistic your goals are, or if they need to be adjusted. Or if they are goals that you don't want to adjust, what does it actually take to get there, right? And with that, I'm going to actually record those so you have them, right? So this is me speaking to you in a personalized mentor session. Now, this video is not meant to advertise that. I'm just saying that that's kind of a fix for the problem that I've come across with mentorship. A lot of different problems that I could go in depth, but again, I'm limited on time, so I will not. So there'll be a little bit of that on here. There'll be a little bit of everything because it is going to be a scatterbrainish podcast by the ultimate scatterbrained individual. I don't necessarily say that as a source of pride. It really causes issues in terms of organization. The implementation of organization I've used lately has shown itself to be far more useful than I had thought for the last 39 plus years. So that's cool. Other things I want to talk about, and this is probably one of the bigger driving things, is I consume content like anybody else. I watch a lot of people talk about topics that I don't know if they're being intellectually dishonest. I don't know if it's some variance of being having a moment, some spectrum of disingenuousness. If that's the right word. Or again, Dunning-Kruger. They think they understand it more than they do, and maybe they earned their platform doing one thing that they were very good at, established an audience, and now they've hijacked that audience and that platform for something else, and now suddenly there's some topics, and I'm kind of committing the same thing. So the only way that I can get around committing this sort of same flaw is to invite people to converse with me, debate with me, whatever, right? I want to have open dialogue on some of these things because I may learn something, right? It may rewrite my views on something, which I think is a positive thing in lifelong students. But these people generally are given the opportunity to speak unopposed, and those that do end up in their orbit become orbiters because they're sycophants, right? They're not people really challenging them. I couldn't tell you the motivation or why these content creators come to be, but they are represented by people who overestimate their ability to speak on things. They are delivering dangerous messages in a variety of ways. Incomplete messages that could be useful had they been complete, but now that they're incomplete, they are damaging or dangerous. So maybe I'm just going to simply fill in those stop gaps. Like, yeah, he's right 70%, but this last 30 he's missing out on, or he or she is incredibly important, and here's why, right? So I think that could be useful. I know that I end up having these conversations anyways with myself because I'm weird like that, but I think a friend of mine years ago once said, I don't know why I call him a friend, because he really wasn't. He was just somebody I talked to on Discord. And he wasn't particularly somebody I enjoyed talking to, but he occasionally would have tidbits of profundity, and I think you can find that anywhere if you're being open-minded and honest and listen to someone. And he said, if you're doing something and you enjoy doing it, turn on a camera, record yourself doing it. Maybe someone else will enjoy it. Maybe build a platform. Maybe there's some long-term value there. I say, you know what? That's interesting. And I normally don't think about it because I usually have so much zeal going into some of the things that I'm working on that I don't think about it, or I have to parse out literally set something up to do it. And that becomes intrusive upon my overall schedule, which is very tight because I only got 7 more minutes left for this. But I'll probably do another episode today because I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on things that I've heard over the last coming weeks, with it being, October 2025. And, a lot of content creators are saying things, as often they do, right? That's sort of their job. Again, unopposed. And if they're opposed, there's this write-off as if that person has an agenda, rhetoric, it's personal, it's not fundamental, right? Whether that be intellectual, political, scientific, whatever. Whatever it is, this isn't coming from a basis of truth. This is coming from a basis of personal agendas. Even though a personal agenda could be truth. You'll see me drinking a lot. That's not to be rude. One of my saliva glands during one of my surgeries, I had my face literally cut off. I have a scar that runs from here all the way down to here. Took that off again. Creeps you out, sorry. And that was to stop a spinal fluid leak, among other things that were going on that they were doing. But in the process, they came across one of my saliva glands had yet another tumor on it. And as they are nice people, they didn't even tell me this, by the way. I didn't research this in my own charts, which we can even talk about how to be more responsible and advocate for yourself when it comes to medical, right? Again, I shouldn't be alive. I should be dead if it wasn't for actions that I took. And I accrued more than $3 million in hospitals. So, I'd never been through something like that before. Who could? But my approach to things was actually fairly effective, even in this area. So that may be something I can share, and you can find some value about it. So I'll try to shave some time off for that at some point. So anyways, why is this different? Well, this is different because I'm now in month 3 or 4 in my new house. As you can see from the multicolored mess behind me on the walls, I have still a lot of like settling in to do and finishing on stuff. But for the most part, I've reached a point of stability and routine where I can just turn on a camera and start talking. If I start having ideas, let's talk. Maybe it'll be a situation where those ideas have to be stitched together to make a coherent video. But ultimately, I would like to drive this to be more of a live thing. Again, I'm not a fan of the editing. I don't, and it's not that I want to deny people editing opportunities. I just don't think there's a lot to edit. If I'm going to talk about something that could have analogs, such as articles, diagram sources, things like that, I can sort of do the Asmongold thing, right, and just sort of set this up myself, right? Just do a screen share, take my oversized XP Pen tablet and just start drawing on it and whiteboard off of that, or just share the document. Ooh, I need a moment. Wave of nausea, and we're good. And we're down to 4 minutes. All right. Sometimes it happens. A little less recently than before. Take medication for that too. I just haven't taken any today. So, the physician's favorite anti-nausea crap. Does it work? I don't know. Anyways, and I hope the audio is decent on this. I know from what I was testing, it wasn't great, and so I may actually invest in a proper setup since I do want to keep this kind of going. Probably need something more to drink. Apologies. It is what it is. So yeah, that's sort of the goal. I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up. This may even get stitched onto another video, but I mean, a 30 minutes is pretty long, especially for an intro, right? Was it 30? I feel like it was 30. Does OBS not tell? Oh yeah, it does tell me how long it was. 26, almost 27 minutes. People have generally short attention spans too, right? Part of me wants to be sort of picky about the people that watch what I watch, but at the end of the day, I just want people to find value in it, right? I don't want to put something out there that no one particularly has an interest in watching. And this, I think, is a good basis to start with. I am in the process of trying to launch multiple business models, multiple product ideas. Some are quite fascinating, and one I've already opened up to invest via GoFundMe, which I'll probably make a video for that to put on the GoFundMe and explain what I'm trying to do. It's actually quite relevant to what I'm doing and what I want to do, so it makes a lot of sense. And my take on it is my take on it. It may be wrong, incomplete, way off base, whatever, but it may provide a lot of opportunity for current creators and future creators. So worst I can do is do my elevator pitch and see where we end up, right? But yeah, we're about at time, so that's where I'd like to go with this. If you find any interest in this, sort of raw, unedited, sort of pseudo live ramblings, then great, there'll be more. And very much that is in theme. It's just going to be who I am. I'm going to start with a topic, and I will most likely end up on a different continent than where I started, because that's just how it goes. And I don't mind. Hopefully, you don't mind. And hopefully, you like or find value in this, or at the very worst case, it becomes background noise to listen to while you're grinding on Diablo, because that's what a lot of YouTube videos end up being for me. Yeah, I'm going to go prep for this meeting. If I have something else that pops into my head, I will flip this here camera on, and we will have another go. There goes my alarm. All right, let's turn that off. All right, well, see you when I see you.